So I guess, what goes into kind of like launching a new market or maybe, going into like opening up some of the different parking spaces that you operate?
Yeah, this is a good question. I mean, so we basically have taken a very different approach than I think a lot of physical world marketplaces have. So when we were first getting started, sort of I don't want to bash on VCs in any way, shape, or form. They look at a lot of businesses, right? And they have frameworks for how they think about businesses, and they sort of have mental models that they will carry from one business to the other. And so the thing that you have to keep in mind as a founder is that your business may not necessarily be the same as all of the other businesses that they've looked at. And they're all different. So if you think about something like Uber or Lyft, those businesses took very market by market approaches. And so they would go to a market, they would do a big launch, and they would try to onboard as many drivers and riders at the same time as possible, and that's how they would attain a critical mass in that market. For us, we're able to attain a critical mass on an individual location by location basis, and so going and trying to constrain ourselves to market launches is actually not the right approach. And one other example business that I'll reference here is, like, if you think about Opendoor, they took a very market by market approach, right? And the reason that they're able to do that is because their market that they're operating in is single family homes and selling single family homes, right? And there's a ton of supply and demand for single family homes. And so there's a lot of liquidity in that marketplace, right? And so you can go to Phoenix and build an entire business just in Phoenix and then expand to Atlanta subsequent to that as a separate market. And you can take that market driven approach, and it makes sense to do that. For us, we're operating in this parking market supply constraint market where there's a lot of parking lots in the world, but they don't change operators all that often. I mean, we have a really good retention rate. So I think we churn less than 1.5% per year in terms of our GMV. So really strong retention rate, but better than the industry, but still the industry doesn't turn over sort of operators very often. And so for us, that meant we needed to open the aperture and go nationwide from day one and be willing to take on a property anywhere and everywhere in order to grow at the rate that we want to grow at. Because if we constrained ourselves to just Los Angeles or just Phoenix or just Atlanta, we wouldn't be able to get enough supply in those marketplaces to grow as fast as we want to. And so we took really a very national approach. I mean, our first properties were in Phoenix, and then our second properties were in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and our third properties were in Austin, Texas. So very much all over the place. And really what we focused on was, how do you make sure that the unique economics of every location that we onboard makes sense as an individual location, so that we can take that nationwide approach, so that we can say, hey, yes, you have a property in a market that we don't operate in yet. We can confidently make that work with the economics that we know that we need to have for enforcement and payments and vendors and all those sorts of things. We can take on a property anywhere in the country as long as it's making a certain revenue threshold and operate it successfully, which then means that we can, open the aperture on where we're targeting deals for, since the liquidity is so low in our marketplace.